Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Talk Show. Today we're talking about the strangest Catholic relics.
That's right. We're going to look at the bizarre world of relics in the Catholic Church. We're going to tell you the strangest ones that we've found and the kind of teaching of the Church behind why we venerate relics.
Now, relics are a treasure to the Church, truly, and we do treasure them. But these weird and bizarre ones, they're really a treasure.
We're towing the line here on relics and sensing that there's going to be a few uncomfortable
moments.
Buckle up. This, but, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, our church has been venerating relics since day one with the martyrs in the church and praying over their bones during Mass, which is extended to us today. Mm-hmm. So just that part is amazing. But this stuff goes into extenuated circumstances when you start talking about some of these other things that we're talking about today.
It does. You know, one of the things that makes the Catholic Church really unique is, honestly, we're weird.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't expect anything so mystical to be ordinary.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you want ordinary church and you can just go to the 4th, 5th Street Presbyterian Luther Scottish Church and you can on the second, and you can just have a nice church experience. But if you want the wild, woolly, and the real stuff, I'm telling you, it's in the Catholic Church, right? And we're going to talk about some of these really bizarre relics and the practice of the veneration of relics.
So the whole sense of relics, I think we should start with the word first. Relic comes from the Latin root relique, which is a Latin word that expresses remains. And it could also relinquish what is left behind. Mm-hmm. And it's a form of patrimony. Like what we have in the treasure troves of the church are relics that go all the way back to the person of Jesus Christ. And these relics they are remains and they're left with us and they're relinquished to us so that it would boost our faith and develop our faith as a result of it. Look, we witness to each other and we're always calling each other out to become more holy and to grow in our understanding of our faith. And I hope that we're helping you out there too in relationship to the Catholic faith. But you know, when we think of relique, when we think of relics, it's good to kind of keep in mind that we do not worship relics. We reverence relics in the same way that we should reverence one another.
You know, in the same way that you would, you know, if something was important left to you, whether it's your grandfather's pocket watch or your grandmother's, you know, recipe book or whatever it is. I mean, these are things that are treasures of a family that connect you through the ages.
Or just like I recently had a friend die and I reverenced the impact that it had on this person, that they grew in their faith. Like I reverenced that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't worship it, but God was doing something in them, and I reverenced it.
And wouldn't we revere God's creation, His created order? Would we not revere what His hand has done?
Everything.
And when you see His redemption, His action of mercy in the lives of the saints, and what we uphold in relics, that's kind of where we're getting to with all of this.
Yeah, and in ancient cultures, this was everywhere, right? One of the greatest ways to disrespect someone in ancient cultures was to burn their body and put their ashes in the river so that there'd be nothing left for people to commemorate them. Mm-hmm. So if there was a king or an emperor or a soldier and you wanted to completely rid the memory, that's how you'd treat them. But here's the thing about relics, is that it's not just a Catholic innovation. It's not just a Catholic thing. This is...
Yeah, because there could be critics out there that could say, well, where is this in the Bible?
And it's very much biblical, right?
Yeah, Old Testament. Oh.
That's right.
Exactly. Old Testament, 2 Kings 13:21, as a man was being buried, a marauding band was seen, and the man was thrown into the grave of Elisha, or Elisha, the prophet. As soon as the man touched the bones of Elisha, he came to life and stood on his feet. So you see the effect immediately, you know, of a relic of his remains.
The bone itself touching them, just touching them, had the effect of bringing someone back to life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's the exact same thing that Catholics believe about it, that these bones, these relics really are imbued with the special supernatural character.
It's even in the Acts of the Apostles.
That's right. In the Acts of the Apostles, St. Paul is preaching in Ephesus, and the believers were coming up and taking cloths and They're taking cloths and rubbing it on St. Paul, right? And then using the grease that came off of St.
That was
Paul
just a couple of dabs. Don't put it on me.
To heal the sick, right?
So for those of you who are listening in on Spotify, iTunes, or other audio services, Podbean, for example.
Shout out Podbean.
What you just missed, and if you're not on YouTube, I don't know what you're doing, but Ryan Delacroix was just dabbed with the oil-absorbing pads.
That's right.
That were contributed by our patrons.
They cannot contain.
That's disgusting.
oils.
I don't even know why I'm still holding it.
They can't stop the grease.
It's
They
a
can only
relic.
hope to contain it. So
It's a relic
here's-
I don't treasure.
Here's an important thing. So that is the the Christians were doing that again, using just something they touched to St. Paul, or
That's awesome.
or you could, the hemorrhaging woman just touched the cloak of Jesus.
Yes.
Jesus wasn't aware. He wasn't saying, "I'm going to heal you." Just by touching the hem of his garment, she was healed. Or you'll see Moses raising the bronze serpent, and the people who would look at it were healed, right?
Now, I think the distinctions here is it kind of begs the sense of we have first, second, and third class relics.
Explain that. Oh, you want me to? I
Yeah,
can.
please. Yeah, like first class relic.
So first class relic is going to be something that came from the body of a saint. Okay, so whether it's a body part, bone, a piece of hair, a tooth, anything that's the mortal remains of a saint is a first class relic.
And for example, right now in my hands, I have a first class relic of St. John Paul II, and it's his blood. So even blood, like there's vials of blood when you visit his shrine in D.C. In the altar piece there. Beautiful.
right.
So yeah, so it's the person.
But then also anything associated with the crucifixion of Jesus, whether it is the nails, whether there's the cross, whether it is the crown of thorns, that's also considered a first class relic, even though it's not a body part.
And there are
Relic, though.
Well, that's a first class relic.
That's God, man.
and that's why it's elevated to such a position within the church. And you think of, the wood from the cross in reliquaries around the world and some of the larger sections of the cross that are in Rome. It's important to recognize that first class. So what's the second class relic?
Second class relic is the possession of a saint, right? So, and something closely associated with them. You can't get John Paul II's, used Tic Tac box, right? It's not like that. It's like, here's St. John Paul II's shoes, his zucchetta, his cloak, whatever it is, or maybe Thomas Aquinas's pen, something like that.
So yeah, like John Paul II's cassock, for example, or you look at it, clothing, habit, a rosary, a Bible, things like that are falling in the category of a second class relic. It was a possession that they had that fostered their faith or was something that they wore.
Or something that was used as an implement of martyrdom. So, whether it's the club that killed a saint, whether it's a sword, a lance, whatever, something that was used to martyr a saint is also a second-class relic, okay?
Technically, it touched him.
Right, but see, that's a third-class relic, is something that touched a saint. But if something touched the saint in their martyrdom, it becomes elevated to a second-class relic.
Gotcha.
But a third-class relic, this is a third-class relic of Ryan Delacroix, right? Something that was touched to him.
Let's put it on the wall.
Let's keep that one.
So, another description of a third class relic is actually something that Ryan Shield did for the parish here at St. John Paul II. He has friends in the priesthood and at a parish that has a first class relic of the blood that came out of the body of John Paul II
When he was shot.
The attempt at his life when he was shot. And commemorating that, the 40th anniversary this past year, we put together a prayer card together and handed that out for the parish, which was just such a gift. And you contributed that gift for when we were established as a parish.
Right. So let's talk about Jesus' foreskin.
Oh my goodness, we're already into the weird now. That's the weird.
Look,
Wait, is this a strange relic?
there is no elegant way to transfer, or to segue into this conversation. So I'm just going to say it. We're talking about Jesus' foreskin today on the Catholic Talk Show.
Hercules.
Oh, we've talked about this before. This always gets like
Well-
you know what's so weird about it is people perpetrate that they have possession of it. That's what gets me.
Okay, now there's a crazy story about this. Now, okay, the relic is called the Holy Prepuce, right? So the holy prepuce purports to be the foreskin of Jesus from his circumcision, okay? Because Jesus ascended into heaven, right? And there was none of him left behind, right? But except for, look, on the eighth day,
dead skin.
His foreskin, right? From his circumcision. On the eighth day, every Jewish baby, had the
snips.
the bris, the snips, right?
The bris.
As a sign of the covenant of Moses, right?
Oh, boy.
So a lot of people purported to have the foreskin of Jesus. I can only assume they kept it like in like a book, like pressed like a flower or something. I don't know how you keep something like that, right? But there was two main ones that were considered to be the foreskin of Jesus. One was given by King Baldwin I of Jerusalem, who was the first Crusader king. He was the king after the Crusaders took Jerusalem. The other was, monks claimed that Charlemagne had possession of it in the early, the late 9th century. And look, King Baldwin and Charlemagne, these are no jokes. These are big, important people. And if they say they got the holy foreskin,
they got the holy foreskin.
They might have the holy foreskin.
Well, I know scripturally speaking, David probably collected more foreskins than Charlemagne. So if we're having this whole, this whole fight over it, I mean, it's very evident that David is the champion in collections. But this is the foreskin of Jesus, which kind of made Trump.
David would have been on top of that.
Yeah, that's true.
If he had the opportunity.
Now, it was actually excommunicable at one point to even mention the holy prepuce, because it was such a matter of contention as to who had it. The Pope laid an edict that if you even mentioned the foreskin of Jesus, boom, out of the church.
Good for
I
him.
hope that doesn't happen to us.
I think that has passed.
I'm getting there.
I hope so.
But here's something that's really interesting. One of the ones that they really thought, a good contender to be the actual foreskin of Jesus was stolen.
Somebody stole it?
Someone stole it.
Was it an armed robbery?
An armed robbery?
Yeah. Somebody come in with forces?
With foreskins? Maybe.
If this is weird to you right now, as it is very weird to me,
Please hit the subscribe button.
hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, would you?
You won't be weird anymore after
It's going to get weirder.
But so here's the thing.
This is where we're starting.
They found it, whatever, they got it back, and then it disappeared from the church, and no one could find the holy prepuce. It was in a jewel-encrusted case. Couldn't find it for a long time. But do you know where they ended up finding it? The priest from the church took it home and kept it in his sock drawer.
What?
Yeah. He just took the relic of the holy prepuce from the church and kept it in his sock drawer in his rectory.
He's probably protecting it.
And maybe he's like, I don't want anyone to steal Jesus' foreskin. I'm going to take it home. It's going to be safe. I'll put it in my sock drawer.
Maybe he was like, I don't even believe in this stuff. I don't want to get excommunicated. I'm going to put it in my sock drawer.
I mean,
Could have said that.
look, I know priests are celibate, but if you ever go to the bar and you're like, hey, girl, I have Jesus' foreskin in my sock
Would you
drawer.
stop?
I'm just saying, that's a good pickup line.
No, it's not.
It's
No,
not.
it's not.
Moving on.
I don't know. I've been married for 20 years. I know nothing about pickup lines.
Yeah, you don't.
So let's talk about Mary's breast milk.
Mary's breast milk?
Let's talk about Mary's breast milk.
Is that a relic?
That's a relic.
Jeez.
Well, the whole interior cavern of
I know you know this one very well. This one's near and dear to you.
the whole interior cavern of the milk grotto next to the church in Bethlehem is absolutely a relic in of itself, because it's where tradition has it that Mary was breastfeeding Jesus
On the flight to
On the
Egypt.
flight to Egypt. So when they took flight, she took flight so urgently that when she got up in haste, a drop of milk fell from her breast, struck the floor, and the whole interior cavern is white. And it is a very powerful place to pray. So if you ever get to Bethlehem, a lot of people miss this place, but it's called the Milk Grotto, and it's definitely tied to our identity here in St. Augustine with Our Lady of la Leche, Nuestra Señora de la Leche, and the traditions of praying for fertility issues. So, many people, Jordan and Joanna Watwood, very devoted to Our Lady of La Leche and received favors I'm a consecrated priest of Our Lady of La Leche, and I've had countless experiences of her intercession and power helping people who are struggling with fertility.
Now, speaking again about Jesus' foreskin, something that was kind of interesting.
Can't we just move on from that?
Well, a lot of nuns in the Middle Ages would have ecstatic visions, right? They would have these supernatural experiences where, as a bride of the church, because that's nuns married the church, just like you're married the church, but they would receive from Jesus as a wedding ring the holy prepuce, and they would wear that wedding ring of the foreskin on their finger as their marriage vow.
All right, so we're doing strange relics. We're done with that.
Okay.
All right, we're done with that.
Now,
There's just a deep fascination in Shield. I mean, it's kind of strange.
well, I bring it up because we're transitioning to the finger, right?
Ah.
Okay. Now, another relic, a very famous relic of a finger, is the finger of St. Thomas the Apostle. And why is St. Thomas's finger so important?
Because he put it in the side of Jesus.
There you go. And that finger bone is still held by the church in the Church of Santa Croce in Jerusalem in Rome.
Mm-hmm. And
Which
it
you would
was the
think is in
fruits-
Jerusalem, but it's in Rome.
And it's the fruits of St. Helen. You know, St. Helen retrieved so many relics, as we all know, you know, the true cross and all of these different saints and the moving
in
of
her
those.
old age, too.
Yeah. And the fact that she moved them to Italy to preserve and protect and then establish churches around them. When it comes to Santa Croce in Jerusalem, that whole church is built on the Sancta Terra, the holy earth
That's right.
of the Holy Land.
Yeah, so in the Middle Ages, when you'd go on a pilgrimage, and St. Helena was the first to do this, she'd take back a lot of the dirt and use that as the foundation so that spiritually this building is in Jerusalem. And a lot of medieval parishes, their parish cemetery, their churchyard, they would take dirt and mix it in and kind of like blend up the dirt for their cemetery so that the people who were buried there had the same privilege of being the first to rise at the second coming as the people who were buried on the Mount of Olives and the people buried in Jerusalem.
We've got to keep that in mind as we build the church here in Nakati.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a beautiful thing to
I mean,
do.
if you can get a churchyard, which I think, you know, every church should have a cemetery.
every church should.
But I mean, absolutely, you should have that dirt for the Sancta Terra mixed in with it because it's a beautiful and powerful spiritual reality of the resurrection.
Yeah. Amen.
Now, St. Thomas's finger, I mean, most of St. Thomas is buried in Chennai, India, right? Because that's where he was martyred.
Yeah.
But his finger, you know, being so important and being such an important biblical story, was taken and separated and put into this church. And this church has got so many cool relics. They've got the titulus, which is the sign that was above Jesus' head, written in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. They have relics of the true cross, like the biggest remaining segments of the true cross. Just all kinds of things.
I think they have relics from all of the apostles. They have relics from, I mean.
Well, it was St. Helena's personal chapel.
Yeah.
That was her personal chapel.
The Leary has an awesome relic of the 12 apostles. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He prayed over me with it. It was awesome. But probably concentrated, I don't know this for sure, but as a concentrated church in Rome and really any other place that I've ever been to, the most amount of relics that I've ever seen is at Santa Croce in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
In Rome.
In Rome.
In Rome.
Important to say.
It's important.
Yeah.
Now, kind of moving down from the finger to the whole hand. You know, I think one of the most popular movies of the last 20 years or whatever is The Avengers and Endgame with Thanos or whatever. And like he gets the Infinity Gaunlet and he clicks his finger and gets all the supernatural power, whatever. I am convinced, and let's put a picture of this up here. I am convinced that the makers of the Marvel movies completely ripped off a relic of the Catholic Church in the creation of Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet.
It looks identical.
And this is the relic, the incorrupt hand of St. Teresa of Avila.
Wow.
I mean, right down to, it's both the left hand. They have the same colored jewels on the finger. It's gold.
Yeah.
They even have the circle right in the middle. I mean, this thing looks identical.
Interesting.
That's a really cool relic. And
So her hand's in there. You can't see the hand, the incorruptible hand, but they put it in this beautiful
reliquary.
structure.
Yeah,
It's a reliquary.
Yeah, you'll see that a lot of times with reliquaries. Whatever they hold, the reliquary itself a lot of times is fashioned to look either like a tomb, either like an ossuary, or like the body part it contains. So sometimes you'll see, a reliquary that looks like a head, that's typically going to have skull bones or jaw bones or teeth.
Yep.
Gotcha.
If you see a hand, it's going to be a hand, obviously.
Even if it's incorrupt.
Even if it's incorrupt. But typically if it's incorrupt, it won't keep it in a reliquary like that. It'll be on display.
That's why, you were saying this is the incorrupt hand of St. Teresa of Avila.
Yeah.
And it's in something like that.
Now, speaking of incorrupt, and speaking of speaking, right? Another really interesting relic, and this one relates to you. It's your patron saint.
Confirmation name.
Saint Anthony of Padua. In the Basilica of Padua, they have this relic, and we're going to show this on the screen here. It is Saint Anthony's incorrupt tongue and jaw. And that's a pretty, I'm sorry, that is a gruesome looking reliquary. It looks like an alien or out of like Contra or something, dude. It
does.
It's like something you would imagine to see like space alien movies. Like that's terrifying and weird and super cool.
It is. And, the fact that the remaining parts of St. Anthony's body decomposed naturally, but the fact that his lower
tongue,
and because he's one of the greatest preachers throughout the history of the church, and he's somebody that I turn to in prayer all the time in preparation for my homily.
Instead of putting his jaw in something that you can reverence it, it's like, no, we're gonna put it in something that makes it look like there's an actual face there, and then weird you out.
Yeah,
because that's the intention.
Because we're Catholics.
So
we do cool stuff like that.
Embrace the weird.
Yeah.
Look, keep it weird, Catholic Church. It's fine.
It's like, we're gonna put him in something that looks like a person, and then just put the jaw in there, and then weird you out. And that's how we're going to venerate this.
Look, Saint Anthony has been dead for 800 years. I'm sorry. Now, Ryan, if you go buy a pickled pig's tongue and you keep it on your counter for even a year, that thing is going to turn into mush.
There's no doubt that's a legitimate tongue and jaw.
Yeah. That's 800 years old.
Which is fine.
He had pretty nice teeth, too.
All I'm saying
for a medieval,
is
true.
Those are nice teeth.
Braces.
Without braces, those are nice teeth.
The next generation of this, with all the new generations, we're going to put them in bobbleheads, a little jaw bouncing around. I don't like it.
No, I think you want to do something beautiful like that. Yeah. Now here's
this one's
This is a pretty
scary.
Scary. I mean, I don't think I'd take my kids to see this now.
That is pretty scary.
This is the relic.
St. Catherine of Siena.
This is St. Catherine of Siena's head. And this is, St. Catherine of Siena has been dead for 700 years, and this is her head still. And one of the things I read once that was interesting was that St. Catherine of Siena died before her mother. And that at the transfer of her relics, her mother was there and saw them parade her head and was very proud that they were parading her daughter's head through the transferal of the relics.
We've been desensitized.
We've gotten soft, dude.
Yeah, we've gotten really
soft.
and we've been desensitized. But what I'm fascinated by this image right now is like her eye sockets
and her eyebrows.
Look at the serenity and the structures of her face. I'm really moved by that, actually.
If you go to anything, if you go to say like, oh, I'm going to go to the sporting goods store and like, hey, we just have human heads in here. Like, what the heck, dude? You go to someone's house, you got human heads. You're calling the cops. You go into the Catholic Church, you see human heads, and it's inspirational, right? Yeah. It's beautiful and mystical, and it's one of the things that I love relics.
So 700 years, you don't have a skull there.
No, I mean she's been dead for 700 years. She looks better than Howard.
Yeah.
You know what that reminds me of is Saint Rita of Cassia too, because her body's exposed and on exposition in Cassia, Italy, and also a very powerful place to pray. But it's her bones, like you can see her decomposed.
Saint before in my life.
No. So the reason that her head's separated is that she died in Rome, but her hometown of Siena wanted to have her body, right? It's the same thing like we saw with Fulton Sheen, right?
I was just about to say that.
You know,
yeah.
they had two dioceses, fighting over the body. So the people of Siena snuck into Rome, and they knew they weren't going to be able to take her whole body, so they just took her head.
Wow. Most of the time you see hearts.
Yeah.
You see hearts being
ripped out.
and then brought to other places. St. Charles Borromeo, there's actually his heart is in a church. It was a gift from Milan and from the Archbishop, and it was positioned in the Church of St. Ambrose in Rome. And I love praying in front of his heart.
You mentioned hearts. There's actually a church. It's called St. Vincenzo and Anastasio in Trevi, and they have the preserved hearts of 22 popes who died from 1583 to 1903, the last being St. Leo XIII. That's the church of the Pope's hearts. And you said...
I went there.
You went there.
And prayed there, and I had no idea all those hearts were there.
So here's a picture of it up on the screen, but you can see
I remember
right
being there.
Yeah, these are all the hearts of the popes right here in these little heart-shaped reliquaries on the altar. And this church is dedicated to the Sacred Heart. I think you can see that's St. Jude there. But
Wow.
22 hearts of the popes, that's... Look, if you're collecting Pope hearts, this guy wins, right? This church wins for sure.
Yeah, there's like 5 churches in that little square.
Yeah, I wonder why what started that tradition. It must have been that it was a very special place of devotion for that first pope.
Popes had something to do with it.
It just became a tradition.
Popes kept it going.
Yeah, and it just became like this is the hearts of the popes or whatever. Yeah. I think it's cool that to have all the hearts of the Pope right there. Because a lot of times, the Pope as the visible sign of unity of the Catholic Church is like the heart of the church. I mean, and to see them all there it's a pretty cool devotion.
It's a special heart.
This church, in looking at it, reminds me of a church in Pittsburgh, and it's the largest collection anywhere in the world of relics outside of the Vatican, outside of St. Peter's itself.
They hang them up on the altar around
It's
there.
huge. So it's in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's a great town.
But is it around the altar? Or is it
It's everywhere. It's around the altar. It's all over the place. It's the largest collection of relics in the world besides St. Peter's.
We were,
yeah,
that's incredible. We were supposed to go there when I was driving out to Cleveland. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it, but we should do that though.
That would be awesome. They have 5,000 relics in St. Anthony's Chapel.
Jeez.
And I drove there, and I was there.
Is it a parish or is it like a?
It's chapel.
It's a special.
Yeah. So it was all, this one priest just collected tons of relics and just made this massive collection. Yeah. Wow. But yeah, check it out. And we'll show the, image here up on the screen, but it's just everywhere you go, just relics everywhere. It looks like your grandmother's china cabinet almost.
Yeah.
That's so precious, man. Wow, I need to go. You know what we should do?
What's that?
With our Patreon, with our patrons that support the show, we should do like a meetup.
All right.
In Pittsburgh.
Like bring your own beer and find your way there, but we can all go to this
Well,
chapel.
they also have a church brewery there too.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff that we can
Pittsburgh's
do.
a great town. I'm from Cleveland, and I don't mind saying that Pittsburgh is a great town.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we look? So if you're not a patron, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon to become one of our patrons. You help support the show. You help enable us to continue to do this show.
We send you cool gear, but I think this would be a lot of fun, and then we can really get to know a lot of our patrons.
Yeah, I mean, we do a weekly hangout virtually on Zoom, me and Ryan with our Patreon
Be like an
members.
in-person hangout.
But let's schedule something like that because, look, it's an hour and a half, 2-hour drive for me. I would absolutely love to go to this church, go to the church brewworks, have some beers. And
I could fly in for like a Thursday.
Yeah, it's
Thursday
an easy
night,
flight.
and do something on my day off.
And if you're not a patron and you still want to go hang out with us, we're going to Fatima.
That's right.
So you don't have to be a patron. This is like a good little hangout.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're not throwing shade at people that aren't patrons.
We're talking about like the fruits of pilgrimage. When you visit holy sites like this and you visit the tombs of the saints, man, it absolutely affects you deeply.
Yeah.
It's life-changing. And this pilgrimage is going to be life-changing.
I think one of the so we're going to Portugal this November, okay? we're going to see a lot of really cool things. But the heart of the trip is going to see the site of the apparition of Our Lady of Fatima. And I think right now, particularly in this world with the situation in Russia and Fatima being so tied to the errors of Russia, I think it's a really important time to go pray.
Amen.
We're going to see the tombs of Saints Francisco and Jacinto Marta and venerate those relics. We're going to see Sister Lucia's tomb. And also in the crown there of the statue on the site where Mary appeared is the bullet that they took out of John Paul's body, put into her crown, because John Paul associated surviving with Our Lady of Fatima's intercession because he was shot on her feast day. But we're going to do a lot of other great things in Fatima, but that core, that Marian core of that is going to be really awesome.
And that's going to be the height of our prayers and our consecration. And we absolutely will be praying in so many different holy sites. But our mentality is pray and play, and we're going to have some fun because we're going to the heart of Porto as well, and really like the beautiful artistic expression of wine in the form of port.
Port's world famous, and we're going to Porto, where that was, where that comes from, where it gets its name. It's eponymous region. But we're doing a lot of cool stuff there. We're gonna, it's gonna be an 8-day trip. We're going to be going to Fatima. We're going to go to the Church of the Holy Miracle, which is a 700-year-old Eucharistic miracle site. So that's going to be cool. We're going to see the tombs of the visionaries of Fatima. We're going to go to the basilica there. We're going to see some really cool churches, Marian shrines all along the way. And we're going to get a chance to pray together, eat together, drink together. We're going to have Mass every single day. It's going to be a really great trip. So go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Fatima to reserve your spot. I promise you this will sell out. We had a pilgrimage set for 2 years ago. We were going to Poland.
100 people.
100 people,
for the
completely
100th
sold
birthday.
out.
For the 100th birthday. How about that?
And then it got canceled to COVID. So this is our first
trip.
international pilgrimage and our first pilgrimage since then. And it's actually going to be our first pilgrimage because that was going to be our first and we couldn't go.
Yeah. So this is our...
And this is very fitting because, it was really in preparation for the parish, the mission becoming a parish, and like there was a lot of ties to St. John Paul II, and now JP2 is just pointing us to Fatima, and it's important because we've got to pray. We've got to pray.
He's my Pope.
That's it. So again, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Fatima to get your spot, and it will sell out, I'm sure.
And we have more strange relics.
So I think that's a good way to segue back into the Holy Prep use.
No.
Thumbs
down. I am done with that part. I'm glad that it's not in circulation anymore.
Circulation? Yeah, it's not. No, it's in some priest's sock drawer probably right now.
There's no circulation to the prep use.
Some priest has got it like rolled up in like a religious sock, maybe. I don't know. It's only conjecture. I don't want to get into it because I might get excommunicated over it.
But, when talking about just weird relics and being, the practice of this, like the head of St. Catherine of Siena, the finger of St. Thomas,
the tongue of St. Anthony, Mary's breast milk. I mean, these are things that to most non-Catholics is like, that's weird.
Especially because we have been desensitized. And it's, we don't see the realities of death, but I think one of the most important things to see in the lives of the saints is their bodies exposed for us to be able to see that death as a reality is something that we shouldn't be afraid of. And clearly their beatitude, like the way that you talk about praying at the tomb of Conchita Cabrera and that effect, where we've prayed in these tombs, the tomb of John Paul II, I know that hit you hard too. It did when I prayed there as well. These locations of prayer are so evocative that it moves you, like that scriptural account with the prophet Elisha.
When we went to the shrine of, we went to see Our Lady of Guadalupe, and you can go on the little elevator and see that, and that's a relic. That's a holy item too. Yeah, and that's why I went there.
It's not a relic.
Well, it is a second-class relic at bare minimum because it was Juan Diego's.
Gotcha.
Right, that was his cloak. So it's a bare minimum, but I think it's elevated beyond that.
Sure.
Oh,
but we went there to see that. But I found myself spending more of my time when I was there venerating the relics of the bones of Saint Jose Sanchez del Rio, who was a young boy killed in the Cristeros War, who is so courageous.
If you haven't watched For Greater Glory,
it's what they did to his feet, but I sat there and I just looked at those, and there's this one of the most famous religious items in the world, but I sat there and was just contemplating this boy's relics, his bones, and what he went through, and that had, I'm going to be honest, a more profound effect on me, there.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I look at the importance of the reverence surrounding relics as an utmost Catholic practice. And every church has a relic, in their altar, in their treasury, and we ought to be reverencing the relics of these saints.
There's something that's really distressing, and I wrote an article about this at one point, but eBay has a very strict rule against the selling of body parts or bodily fluids because people be weird and they do that, right?
People be weird.
People be weird.
Well, they sell like, here's
they do that.
Like here's blood or here's breast milk. They sell, because people are weird, right? Or body parts or hair, right? A hair of a celebrity. But they allow the selling of Catholic relics. And it goes against their own policy, but they still allow these relics to be sold.
We saved a patron from
That's right.
buying, what was it?
It
part
was
of the cross?
Part of the true cross.
Yeah, he reached out to us and we researched it.
Yeah,
and
it was
don't buy this.
I looked at it. I compared the signatures of the supposed signer, the archbishop and cardinal, and it was totally bunk. But it's illegal to sell relics. Relics, you can get relics as a layperson, but you have to go through a very specific way. You have to request them. There's a church in the Vatican, and it's like, have you ever seen like an apothecary, like an old-fashioned apothecary where they have like all those little drawers of different medicines? They have that, but with the bones of saints. So when like a new church is being founded, they say, okay, well, we're going to,
you get a sliver of this guy's
St.
bone.
Thomas. So they go A, B, C, D, F, S, T. Okay, pull out this, Thomas. And then they get a little sliver and they send it. And there's a lot of churches that will send you a third-class relic. So like maybe if you're having someone in your family has cancer, you can send a letter to the Church of St. Peregrine, who is a patron saint of cancer, and you can say, can I send you a cloth? And you touch it to his tomb, and they'll send it back to you. So you have a third-class relic. So that's how a lot of the relics will happen. But one of the particularly sad things that I see is there's a lot more relics 50 to 100 years ago. And that generation is dying off rapidly. And a lot of their kids are not Catholic anymore. And when grandma dies and she has all this weird religious stuff, they put it in a box and they give it away. They take it to an antique shop. And you'll find reliquaries in there all the time. And it's sad. And it's against canon law, it's against human dignity, and it's very sacrilegious.
So, if you do, see these relics out there,
buy them. It's
retrieve
not illegal to buy them. It's illegal to sell them.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you buy them, it's a virtuous thing because you are rescuing the relic from a precarious situation.
And they should be returned to the church. And ultimately, we like Saint Helena retrieving all of these relics. She brought them to be protected and preserved. And we need to get the sacred relics back into the church, back into the treasury, so that they could be properly reverenced.
Like the missing Holy Prepuce. And that's exactly why you want to keep them in the church, because it gets stolen.
I thought we've already agreed that we were not going to talk about
Nobody
the
knows
foreskin.
where it is. There's no rescue job.
It's a closed
rescue
door.
job.
Well, not with that attitude, there's not.
No, there's not. we want you not to speak of it ever again.
Well, we're not talking about the remains of the foreskin anymore. But what you should leave as a relic and a remain is the imprint of your thumb on the subscribe button, clicking, and giving us a thumb up.
You could use a mouse too.
I guess you could use a mouse. Forefinger.
Look, like, share,
Click.
foreskin,
Like,
subscribe.
Stop!
You said
No, I won't say that.
Anyway, hey, guys, it's a pleasure connecting with you every week. Hope you enjoyed this weird show, and
This
we'll
is fun.
see you next week.